and welcome to Money Matters TV. My name is Doug Hepburn, and I'm your host of Hepburn Financial Advisors, a boutique wealth management firm located in Phoenixville, Pennsylvania. We've been providing trusted strategies and advice to business owners, executives, and women investors for over 20 years. I'd love to welcome my co-host, Robin Bond of Transition Strategies, a team of tenacious lawyers representing their clients throughout the employment process. How are you, Robin?
Oh, it's great to be with you today. Thank you. Getting into springtime, ready
I
for
know.
some positive changes, new things to start blooming and growing, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, change is certainly in the air. We've got a lot of that going on these days.
The only thing that's certain, I think, right? Yeah, for sure.
Exactly. I can't remember who said that, but it's certainly apropos right now. I mean, we've seen a lot of changes in the economy, particularly because we're moving from more a government-driven economy to more of a business-driven economy. We've got the threat of tariffs that are coming on, and of course, the media wants everybody to think that the sky is falling and the world is coming to an end. But I don't know that I disagree. What's your take on that?
Well, I thought maybe today I'd talk a little bit about tips for remaining employable as we see tens of thousands of government workers now hitting the job market, which has resulted in a bit of a frozen job market. I think the private sector economy is wondering, can we absorb these people? How will we absorb these people in addition to the other people that are already out there looking for jobs now? And as Americans, we're very career driven. Achievements at work are, absolutely contribute to our overall personal well-being. So, a few tips. I think that if you're employed now, you need to maintain a very daily conscientious effort to connect with coworkers and show how you are indispensable, even doing job that no one else wants to do, being the expert in something that no one else wants to be the expert in, can make the difference between whether you get the pink slip or the person next to you does. Secondly, building good relationships at work is so important. I can't tell you how many people can't believe that despite their fantastic performance, they've still been tapped for a reduction in force. And all I can again say is, the boss is the boss. If you think the boss is an idiot, well, at least the boss is smart enough to get the job as the boss. So sometimes it's better to just say, yes, sir, boss, whatever you say, boss, rather than fighting or arguing or disagreeing. Building good relationships with the boss and the team is a really critical component to being perceived as a good worker. And I tell everyone, keep a logbook. My third and final tip, keep a logbook of all your achievements for the year in objective, measurable terms. Like I brought this project in on time, under budget, saving the company $10 million. It has been said, if nobody sees you pull the rabbit out of the hat, did you actually do it? You need to maintain the log. You cannot depend on your boss to notice all the things you do. It's important that you keep track of these things and, schedule private time with the boss to share them, or share them in a way that not only spotlights you, but spotlights the team as a whole. So those are my tips for remaining employable, and I certainly wish the best to all our viewers in what can be a difficult job market right now.
And that's all very good advice. Fortunately, my daughter is working in the private sector, but as a young person or early in her career, I've told her keep a logbook not only of your successes, but also of the things that happen at work, because you never know. There may be things that beyond your control that you want to be able to document. And as long as that stuff is documented contemporaneously from when it happened, that is probably the strongest evidence that you can get. Because, if you try and do it 3, 6 months, 12 months down the road, sort of loses that patina of being in the moment. So, documentation is very important. And, Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. You know, it's I think everybody's heart goes out to those people who are potentially going through transition. We've been through this before in 2008, and
Oh,
of course
yeah.
during COVID and the tech wreck. But you know, somehow things always tend to come back, and I think, you know, to pick up on one of the points that you made, you know, it's having enthusiasm in what you do. You may not love your job, but if you can do it enthusiastically, and then we'll give you a leg up on the people who are just moaning and groaning
Yeah.
through the workday.
Nobody
And
likes the complainers.
no, no, no. But you know, believe it or not, on a positive note,
Yes.
you know, private sector job growth accelerated in March, and you know, according to the ADP release recently, you know, it's 155,000 jobs were added across the economy. So I think what we're seeing is a lot of people, a lot of really good people are going to be available
Hmm.
to work in the private sector. And we've seen for a long time that there are a lot of private sector jobs that are just going unfilled. So it remains to be seen whether or not there's just going to be a shift from public sector to private sector employment, whether people are really going to be employed for a long period of time, whether the economy is really going to slow down, because that's what we're hearing, the negative impact of tariffs and potential inflation. But you know, that old saying, things always seem worse when you're in it than
Yeah.
when it's behind you.
Yeah, and
So
it depends too what your job range is, like what your salary
right,
range is. And if you're in the 100,000 and above, that's where you see the harder to land those jobs. Uh,
exactly.
Under 100,000, yes, you're going to see job growth there. So again, that depends on who our audience is, what they're looking for.
Absolutely, and to that point, um, you know, what we may end up seeing, and hopefully the economy can adjust to this. I mean, if we see a lot more manufacturing jobs coming back, the real question is, do we have the workforce trained to be able to do those? And that's a major consideration, and whether or not that's going to require businesses to uh, improve benefits, improve salaries in order to get the qualified people in. So uh, I think we're uh, I think we're due for some interesting times. What's that old Chinese curse? May you live in interesting times.
Yeah, that would be a good.
Um,
Well, if they can't find the workers, I think Elon Musk will create robots in the factory. So I think we'll be okay.
and that's the other thing that people have said, is that, you know, perhaps AI and
Back
robotics are
to
going to
AI again. We're
are
always back to AI every show.
I know it's unbelievable. It's a great change, that the new industrial revolution that we're going to see.
That's
Um,
well said. Well said.
yeah, yeah. Well, you know, I wanted to pivot to our viewer question from Tim Jenkins of Philadelphia. He says, "How does the National Labor Relations Act help workers?"
Oh, thank you. Well, I'm happy to answer that very briefly. It's the National Labor Relations Act is a federal law that protects employees from discrimination or retaliation for trying to better the terms and conditions of their work environment. This involves a lot of different things. It could be your right to unionize, your right to engage in collective bargaining, your right to have a representative with you at some investigative meeting, and your right to talk with your coworkers about your wages and other terms and conditions of employment. So that is how the National Labor Relations Act can be very helpful to workers, and it is monitored by the National Labor Relations Board. So thank you for asking the question. I hope you never need their assistance.
Yeah, well, thanks for sending that in, Tim. You know, if there's something that you'd like to ask Money Matters TV. Here's how you can send your question in.
You can have your questions answered on Money Matters. Please go to our website, money-matterstv.com. On our homepage, click on the banner on the right that says Send Us Your Questions. While you're on our website, you can find information about our host and guests, as well as show notes and links about this show and past shows. Money Matters is also available as a podcast on iTunes and Stitcher, so you can listen to Money Matters while you're on the go. That website address, again, is money, MONEY, -matters, MATTERS, TV.com.
Well, with over 50% of the population being women, you would think that the financial services industry would market to both men and women equally, but studies have shown that that isn't the case. Today's guest is Barbara Provost, a founder of Purse Strings LLC, a company that's focused on changing the perception of women by the financial services industry. Welcome to Money Matters TV, Barbara.
Hi, Doug. Hi, Robin. Nice to be here.
Welcome.
Oh, great to have you. You know, what inspired you to start Purse Strings?
Well, as a financial consultant in the industry for 25 years, teaching financial professionals, I could see by the processes, by the procedures, by the marketing materials that the financial industry was really overlooking a female market at every point in turn. Nothing was speaking to women. The sales process didn't speak to women. It was very male oriented. It's a male model built by men for men to sell to men. And I did a lot of research only to find that the industry has overlooked women to the tune of leaving $700 billion on the table even today. And as women are coming into the largest transference of wealth in history, there's a huge gap between the financial industry and women.
Oh, you know what? I want to follow up on that, because when you said largest transference of wealth, this is what I've seen like in the private school arena, where the men are dying first, the women are inheriting the money, and then the private schools are getting the money from the women. So yes, can you talk about this a little bit more, this transference of wealth? Like, why are women underserved in the market when it would seem to me that it makes the best sense of all to be focusing on them?
Doesn't it? I know. It's interesting. For so long, because this was such a male model, so many women tell me time and time again, they don't even look at me. They just speak to my husband, because this is the way that the industry revolves, and they're slow to change. And they've been overlooking women to the tune of leaving so much money on the table today. And if this consistently goes on, they're going to miss this huge market. It's much like I say when Netflix went to Blockbuster and said streaming's the way to go, and Blockbuster said, I think we're good, right? Yeah. Look where Blockbuster is today, right? And look where Netflix is today. And this is because, like 12,000 people are turning 65 every day in the United States for the next 7 years. So think about the bulk of the generation aging. And so, sorry, Doug, but men do die first. And all of a sudden, this money is going to be transferred down to some men. Will tell you. Men will die first, and the money is going to be transferred into the hands of women. And we like to say at Purse Strings that women will own the purse strings of America, and that all this money is going to be in the hands of women. And as the industry overlooks women, they're going to only turn to those financial professionals who know what women want from their financial, from women who know and want to work with financial professionals who understand them, who get them, who treat them with respect and dignity, answer their questions, are there when they need help, and really partner with them for the long term.
I think that's awesome, and that you're doing that. I think it's unfortunate that the financial services industry has ignored women for so long, and because I've known of this personally. I've heard of it happening. I don't do it. I try and make sure that I'm addressing everybody's needs. But I'm curious, how has this focus on men by the financial services industry impacted women?
Well, women are underserved. Women are not prepared for their financial future. Unfortunately, women And it stems back to the fact that financial literacy is not taught in schools to men or women. Women
Right.
are given poor money messages. You spend too much money, where they're told men to invest. So we can unpack and go on forever and ever about the poor money messaging given to women. And women are enculturated to give that money to the man, right? Give it to the man to invest, to take care of it for you. And oftentimes women leave their works, their jobs, to take care of either children or take care of sick or take care of aging parents. They leave the
Right.
workforce. And, we are behind. And Robin, you probably see this too, where we lose hundreds of thousands of dollars leaving the workforce and benefits behind, where then when we're ready to go back due to, the average age of a widow is 59. And gray divorce is happening at 3 times the rate. That's couples in their 50s and 60s. So there's a lot going on here with women, a lot of money in motion in their between 50s and 65, that women are really looking for great financial professionals who get them, and they're few and far between.
Thank you for making that point, because my advice to all young women today is stay connected in your careers. Do not give it all up. I mean, I'm not saying you have to work 80 hours a week, but I think you need to stay employed, keep your brain active, and keep your skills sharp. Okay. I think trying to re-enter a workforce today is like trying to, get it back into a buzzsaw. So, but why do you think, though, that it's more difficult for women to save or invest than it is for men, Barbara? Why do you think that is?
There's many, many reasons. Let me start with women make 83 cents on the dollar. We just had Equal Pay Day, which was March 25th this year, for white women. And when you talk about Black women, Hispanic women, Latina women, it's further into the year. And don't
Right.
tell me it's not true. It's true. So we're still not on par with men for equal pay. That's number one. Number two, it's more expensive to live as a woman. Doug, how much do you pay to get your hair cut? I'm sure it's much, much less than what I pay or what Robin pays.
Oh, I have no doubt.
Yeah,
Pink tax.
yeah, the pink tax, right, Doug? Pink tax.
Yep.
It's, products for women are much more expensive than products for men. So just living for women as women, healthcare expenses are more expensive for women.
Right.
The products that we need to live with as women are more expensive for women. And, so it's more expensive being a woman. We're often called out of the workforce to raise children. We're leaving money behind. We don't get benefits for that. Also, and this is another tsunami that's coming our way, is healthcare, is caretaking for our aging parents and spouses and siblings. As the population is aging, we're going to be called out of the workforce for that. It's very expensive, an expensive time, and it's a woman's issue and it's a financial issue. So that's another reason. So women are really pulled at every point in turn, and it's very difficult for them to try to get ahead if they're not paid enough. It costs them more to live. They have more expenses. They take on unpaid work every single day.
I can appreciate all of that, because I've seen that happen. I feel very fortunate that I learned a lot of my basic finance from my mother, who was a working mom and a professor at a university setting, and I saw what it took for her to take that position and be able to help support our family. And nowadays, it seems like every family has to be a 2-income family. What can women do to help themselves to become and be financially secure?
Yeah, the first thing they need to do is really know where their money's going. And very simply, they just need to know how much money is coming into their household and how much money is going out on a monthly basis. Know your basic foundational numbers, and then after that, know what your assets are, what your income and liabilities are. So you know what your numbers are in your household, know what kind of debt you have, and know what the interest is on that debt, and really get a really solid foundation on your assets and your liabilities, so you know what your net worth is. Once you know your numbers, that's kind of like knowing where you are today. Then you can make good financial decisions about where you want to go, what kind of plans you want to make. And everybody's plans, as you well know, Doug, everybody has a different plan for their life. And you can start making great financial plans for yourself, whether it's paying down debt, saving for travel, buying a house, buying a car, selling a house, buying a bigger house, whatever it is that you want to do in your life. You need to know your numbers first. And then I would always say work with a financial professional, because this is complicated stuff. As we get older and we buy more things, houses, assets, things like that, it gets complicated. Tax is complicated. And I would say really find a good financial advisor that can be your partner and your go-to person when you have questions around investments, things you want to purchase, taxes, things like that.
Great advice.
Thank you. And I was going to ask you about March being Equal Pay Day, but you sort of, already talked about that. But if I could follow up on something you just said about knowing your numbers, cash flow planning is often something that financial professionals will do for a client. Is that something that you do? Is that something that you recommend for clients?
Absolutely. You need to know your cash flow. That's for sure. So at Purse Strings, we provide you excellent financial professionals, either financial coaches or financial advisors or financial planners. We even have attorneys, lenders, mediators, anybody that touches a financial transaction, wherever you are on your financial journey, who can help you with any and all of that.
Okay, that's helpful.
That's the discussion of cash flows is very important. And you touched on a number of things in terms of understanding your cash flows, your assets and liabilities, net worth. And it made me realize that, I feel very fortunate. As a kid, I saw my parents balance the checkbook every Sunday night. And I still have a ledger book. And occasionally, I'll show that to some of my married couples for two reasons. One, it demonstrates the importance of both parties in a relationship being on the same page, but also the impact of inflation. When you see the cost of things back in the 60s versus today, it's huge, the difference. And so it really kind of wakes people up as to a number of different things. But I think being on the same page is extremely important. Because, if you're in a relationship, both parties have to be aligned.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, do women prefer to work with female advisors?
I would say not necessarily. I mean, there are some women who perhaps they would like to choose, female advisors, female dentists, female doctors, all female. But, studies have shown that they really want to work with an advisor who treats them with respect and dignity, is going to follow up, answers their questions, knows what they're talking about, listens to them, has all of that criteria that they feel that they can trust, they know them, they like them, the person responds to them, answers their questions, they feel like they're getting really good advice, they're aligned with them, they get to know them. So that's really what they're looking for.
Right.
That's really, and it takes a long time. It's not transactional. That's what hurts the financial industry. So often it's this transactional, make a sale, move on, make a sale, move on. That's not what women want. That's why they run from financial professionals, because they don't want to be pushed to sale. They tell me that all the time, is all they want is my money. They want me to buy something. So we're really looking for financial professionals who are going to take the time to get to know who we are and take the time so we can build trust with them.
Yeah.
Well, thank goodness that's not me.
Yeah. Well, it's more like you're saying, hey, go for fiduciaries versus brokers. People,
right.
Brokers, are more like buy something, that's a trade. But we're kind of running short on time. So I just wanted to ask you, how again, do you believe that women are going to hold the purse strings of America? Because that ties in with your company name.
Well, women make 95% of the purchasing decisions in the household today, because they're like the operations manager inside their household. I don't care what the purpose is, they're making all those decisions. But as they're coming into this wealth transfer, they're going to be owning the purse strings, because they're going to be coming into all that wealth, and they're going to be decisions makers of over $30 trillion And they're going to be the ones in charge of the wealth. They're going to be in charge of the wealth of America, and they're going to be the decision makers. So they're going to be the ones driving the boat.
And they're going to want to work with a trusted advisor, somebody
Yeah.
who's going to have their best interests at heart. So, what can financial professionals do to help women be, as you say, financially fearless?
Well, financial professionals really need to be students of the female market, really understand what women want and need. And it's a behavior change for many financial professionals, and not everyone's going to be able to do it. It's really understanding how to build a relationship, how to be patient, how to really understand and learn what women want. I also teach a class called Reach, Engage, and Earn the Female Dollar, where we go through all of that at every point in turn. What are women looking for? What are you providing? And not addressing her with a broad brush, but really going deep and understanding, who is this person? What's important to her? Does she have children? Is she in school? Whatever her unique differences are, you really need to understand and take the time to know who your customer is.
That's great. And I think what's helpful too is, as Tim was saying, how he was influenced by a mother who was a working mother
Yeah.
and has a positive relationship. And I know my son is a financial professional, but he's in hedge funds. It's a different kind of thing.
Yeah.
But he says the same thing. He said, I don't mind strong women at all. I was raised by one. So
Yeah.
there's a good, positive outlook for the future here.
Yeah.
And it's funny. I feel very fortunate that my daughter at work, everybody goes to her for financial advice. And she said, they ask her, how did you learn all this? She goes, from my dad, of course.
Good.
So, I really appreciate that. Barbara, it's been great having you on here. Thank you for sharing your insights on women and the financial services industry.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, no, it's very insightful stuff. It's very important for our audience. I also want to thank you, Robin, for as co-host today. You did a great job, and I'd love to thank the people who work behind the scenes to help make Money Matters TV possible. Be sure to tune in to our next show with Eric Parnell, CFA of Great Valley Advisors Group. Most importantly, we want to thank you, our viewers, for tuning into Money Matters TV, where your money matters.